When you are truly done with a project, you're ready to archive it. Now, basically archiving means you're going to take it off your current machine and put it on another hard drive and put it on the shelf, or maybe put it onto a server. But the idea is that you want to save just the parts you need, or just the parts you think you will need in the future if you wanted to re-edit the program, and get rid of what you don't need. Now, there's two distinct workflows in doing that. One is inside of Premiere Pro and one is outside of Premiere Pro. If you have been very, very careful and very, very organized, and all of your media is put in the same location. So I'm going to jump out to my project settings and look at my scratch disks. So for instance, all of this is saved to the same folder, and you're very good at bringing media into that same folder. You can simply, I'm going to cancel this and hide Premiere Pro. I could go in and just copy this folder from one hard drive to another. And the contents of this folder has all my organized media. It might have some autosaves and preview files. Those are the renders, as well as any project files that I might have for that project. I might have multiple ones if I'm putting them into another project. And I could just copy this folder. The downside of doing it this way is, one, there may be extra media that I thought I might use that I ended up not using. And maybe I grabbed something from somewhere else on my hard drive and forgot about it. And then when I open up the project and go to reconnect the media, I won't be able to find it in my backup because maybe it was in my pictures folder. So this may seem like a good idea, but it's very dangerous. If you're going to do this immediately on another machine, not the same machine that you worked on, open up the project file and make sure everything reconnects. Otherwise, you may be out of luck 6 months down the road when you need to work on this project, when you need to go back and do more work on this project. Now, inside of Premiere Pro, we're familiar with the project manager for copying our media from one location to another. Except now we're going to use it specifically to archive just what we want. So for instance, if we don't want all of the sequences, much like last time, we can turn off any sequences that we don't want to use. Now, I want to point out that I really only created two sequences here, a timeline sequence and my experimenting sequence. But in each of those, I did make, in this case, a multicam sequence. And in the first one, I had a Photoshop document that I brought in as a sequence. So be sensitive to the fact that you might have sequences within sequences. Don't be cavalier about just turning things off because you think you don't need them. I'm going to go ahead and turn off these two because really this is the project that I need to archive for my client. And what I want to do is create a new trimmed project. Now, this is going to allow me to throw away any media that I did not use and also trim media that I may have used but only used a small chunk of. Now, I can go ahead and by default, it's a 1 second or 30 frames of handle. So I'm going to drag that up to the highest number, which is 100. So now I have a little over 3 seconds more of each clip that I used in my timeline. So if in the timeline I used a 10-second clip and I'm asking Premiere to trim it, it's going to trim it to a little over 16 seconds with about 3 seconds before and about 3 seconds after. That would be 90 frames. So in case I needed to make a shot longer, though it's trimmed, the media is still available to me. I do want to point out that there are some camera formats that cannot be trimmed, such as the long GOP H.264 format that many cameras shoot. And if they trim it, some of the information won't be there. So in those cases, Premiere literally just moves the whole clip to the new location, and you have everything, not just what you used in the timeline and the handles. You also have this option to rename media files. Again, this is a tricky decision because it's nice that if you rename them in the project file, these new clips will now be renamed and you can look and see exactly what the clips are by their name instead of having to open them up. But you won't be able to link these clips back to any other project that might be referring to them by their original name that the camera might have given them. I can then pick a location, and of course, if I'm archiving, I could archive to the same machine, but I don't think that's necessarily the right workflow and what you should be doing. Usually, you'll want to archive to a different location, so I'm sending it to another drive on my computer, and I'm choosing that, and I can see exactly how much space is going to be used after I hit the Calculate button. So my original project size of what I was copying was 575 megabytes, and I'm rounding it off here. The new one is 482 megabytes. I'm pretty happy with that. If I wanted to see it get a little bit smaller, I could turn that off. But in my case, 482 is good enough. I press OK. It's now going to put this onto the Scratch disk, and when I open it up, I should see a project file and all of my media. So let me go ahead and open up my Scratch disk. And there it is, trimmed Project 2001. And if I double click to step inside, I see the project and all the media that I used. And I would recommend taking this folder, putting it on another hard drive, plugging it into another computer, trying to open up the project file, and make sure that everything you anticipated you moved really was moved. Once everything is archived, you can simply throw away the media from your original project, but I want to give you a word of warning. If you've used media in 2 different projects, you could throw away media that you're using in another show. So again, err on the side of caution when archiving.